The scent of forgotten things always drew me in a mix of old paper, decaying wood, and the faint, metallic tang of rust. It was the smell of stories waiting to be told. I spent my weekends hunting through flea markets, searching for treasures hidden beneath layers of dust and neglect. That's how I found it, tucked away in a shadowy corner, behind a stack of faded postcards and a chipped porcelain dull Setter radio. It wasn't just any radio. It was a cathedral-style console from the 1930s. Its mahogany cabinet grand and imposing, despite the grime. The fabric over the speaker was torn. The tuning knob was stiff, but I felt a pull, an inexplicable connection. I had to have it. Getting it back to my workshop was an ordeal, but I spent the next week meticulously restoring it. I sanded the cabinet until the deep, rich grain of the wood glowed again. I replaced the frayed wiring, sourced vintage vacuum tubes, and carefully stitched a new piece of grill cloth into place. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. I plugged it in, holding my breath as the tubes began to warm, casting a soft orange glow in the dim light of my workshop. I turned the knob, and a familiar crackle filled the air, the sound of 1,000 dead stations. But then, as I dialed past the usual static, something else emerged. It was a faint, rhythmic pulse, a pattern hidden within the noise. Thump, thump, hiss. At first, I dismissed it as interference, maybe a problem with one of the new tubes. I spent hours checking every connection, every solder point, but the sound persisted. It was always there, lurking on a frequency that shouldn't exist. Days bled into nights. My workshop, once a place of calm restoration, became a command center. I hooked the radio up to my computer, run in the signal through every audio filter I could think of. The rhythmic static was my constant companion. I ate my meals next to it. I fell asleep on the couch listening to its incessant beat. My friends called, their voices distant and concerned, but I couldn't explain my obsession. How could I tell them I was chasing a ghost in the machine? The sound started to change. It grew more complex, more structured. The simple thump, thumpis evolved into a cascade of clicks, whistles, and deep, resonant tones. It was like listening to the chirps of a mechanical bird or the chattering of an insect made of metal and electricity. I was convinced it wasn't random. It was a language. I started recording everything, hours upon hours of this alien symphony. I printed out spectrograms, huge sheets of paper that covered my walls, showing the intricate patterns of the signal. I was a cartographer, mapping an unknown continent of sound. My world shrank to the size of that workshop, to the glow of the monitor and the hum of the old radio. Then, one rainy Tuesday evening, it happened. The chaotic layers of sound suddenly fell away, coalescing into a single, pure signal. The clicks and whistles arranged themselves into a sequence, clear and undeniable. It was a countdown, not with numbers I recognized, but with tones. A low tone, followed by a series of high-pitched chirps that decreased with each repetition. It was counting down from something. I frantically cross-referenced the new pattern with my old recordings, my heart pounding against my ribs. The pattern had been there all along, buried deep within the static, But now it was clear, urgent. I felt a cold dread mix with exhilarating discovery. The countdown was nearing its end. I stared at the spectrogram on my screen, watching the final sequence play out. The last high-pitched chirp echoed in the silent workshop, followed by a single, deep, resonant tone that seemed to vibrate in my very bones. And then silence. The radio went completely dead, but the silence was shattered a moment later. A blinding, pure white light erupted from the radio speaker, flooding the room and throwing everything into stark, brilliant relief. It wasn't hot, just intensely bright. I stumbled back, shielding my eyes. The light pulsed once, twice, and then vanished, plunging the room back into darkness, leaving only the smell of ozone in the air. My eyes slowly adjusted, and I was drawn to the window. My breath caught in my throat. Hanging silently in the night sky above the city, eclipsing the moon and the stars, was a colossal, dark object. It was descending, and from its surface a single point of light began to glow, a familiar, brilliant white. The countdown was over. The arrival had begun.